Not Nerd Podcast, episode 249. Time flies.
Welcome to the Not Nerd Podcast. I'm Nate Heath, and we are here to help you tech better. Here with me, as always, Mr. Dave Baylor.
Yes, Nate, and I'm excited because today there was a special Apple event titled Time Flies, and everyone in the world was wondering, what is this special Apple event about? And we found out today.
Yes. Tim Cook started off very early, letting everybody know that this was going to be about Apple Watch and iPad, a couple other things that they announced along the way. As comes as no surprise, 2020 is a little bit different of a year than usual, and there was some of the rumor guys had assumed that they would not be doing iPhone today. Apple has even mentioned that they were delaying the iPhone, so we'll probably see those. We'll probably get to do another one of these in October, and then maybe one in November for the new ARM-based Macs or something like that. But still plenty of products, but we've got some very exciting stuff to talk about. So why don't you start us off with what they talked about first?
Well, I was going to say before that, Apple has really taken advantage of this platform that's video versus in person, and it allows them to do more events because it doesn't cost so much money and time and resources to bring people in. But for today's event, yes, Apple Watch and iPad were the two main events. And right off the bat, now nobody ever guessed this. They've had the Apple Watch, they've had the Series 2, the Series 3, the Series 4, the Series 5, and out of left field, the Series 6 was announced.
Yes.
Nobody expected that. But they do have a new product red, which my iPhone right now is, my 10R is a product red iPhone. So I can see myself maybe rocking a red Apple Watch. But they do come in some new colors. Compared to the Series 5, basically the look and feel is the same. Mm-hmm. But there are some new hardware sensors that they've added. And one sensor is the blood oxygen level sensor. I mean, there's like a million things that could be used for to indicate your health, how much capacity your lungs have, how efficient they are when they breathe in, like when you exercise and do various things. When you're sleeping at night, do you have some type of apnea or something that's making your blood oxygen levels go down? I mean, there's a million things they can use for this. Now, there was a term they mentioned that I was not familiar with, and that was the Vo2 Max Measurements. This is apparently one of those metrics that medical professionals use to measure something about blood oxygen. Were you familiar with that term?
Yes, it's very common for athletic testing, and that's kind of what they were talking about. And I remember back in my college swimming days, talk about, I don't think I ever did it, but it's just the...
You hook up to a tube and then breathe into it on a treadmill? Is that like what they do? Or
yes, Vo2 Max is the maximum rate of oxygen consumption measured during incremental exercise. That is, exercise in increasing intensity. So it's kind of how your body processes the oxygen while you're exercising. And with swimmers, that's important because it is one of the rare sports where you don't get to breathe all the time.
That's true. And I know that I've never had this measurement done for me because I've never been in a place where I've had increasing exercise, like getting harder and harder and harder. Usually if it gets to a point where it's hard for me, I just quit.
Yes.
So, and there's the regular type of improvements that you would expect. A better display that's brighter, of course. They did launch 3 new health studies since they have new sensors that is not only the heart rate and the ECG, now with the blood oxygen sensor, they have new studies that are out that you could participate in. And you may or may not know this, altimeter was one of the features of the Series 6. Didn't the old Series 5, yesterday it was brand new, didn't it also have an altimeter, but this one just has like an app that goes with it that shows you real-time height and stuff like that?
I know, because when I would do walks, it would show me change in elevation. I think they were talking about the fact of that it's all the time So maybe just not
It's
while you're
continuous.
exercising. I do have to give a disclaimer on the event. I had the extreme pleasure of watching the event with my 4-year-old daughter, Isla, and my wife was at an appointment. So I did miss some pieces. I did go back, and
Yeah.
I've been reading up since it ended.
Well, I can try to fill you in for sure.
But yeah.
Yeah, the altimeter, there's a little app now, and you can you're out hiking, you're like, what's my altitude? And it'll tell you. I think it might have been using GPS in addition to the altimeter and previous watches
gotcha.
to kind of tell you how high you are. But this is like the real deal, and it's definitely improved. And of course, new watch faces and new watch bands. And I had some quirky things to say about some of those. Like, the Hermes bands and stuff, who buys those things? Rene Ritchie.
Yes, Rene Ritchie, YouTuber. He has, I think, about every Apple Watch bands, but that's
I don't know why you would
but,
spend more on an Apple Watch band than you do the watch itself. But
well, I will say neither of us are extremely fashion forward.
Okay.
That we are fashion conscious. We have our style, but we are not necessarily. We would never purchase anything Hermes. That does not figure into our holistic cost calculations when it comes to what we wear. So, but there are people out there that buy them, and people that put a strong importance on high fashion. But they have these new. Are they called the solo bands?
Mm-hmm.
Which are one continuous piece of either their polyester, their special rubber
polyurethane.
Yes, whatever.
Polyelastomer.
Polyelastomer. I was close. And then they also have the braided solo loops as well. Now, the interesting thing, I was looking through, they have the amazing style picker or whatever they call it on their website, even on the phone app, where you can create your watch, which face, look through all the bands, get a side view. Those are ones, there are, I believe, 7 different sizes.
Yeah.
So you have to, they have like a PDF that you can print off or use household objects to measure your wrist. My wrist
Maybe
size
a ruler
fluctuates quite a bit, so I don't think those would work for me. I was looking through the picker after the event with my daughter, and she saw the Pride Rainbow Loop, and she is a huge fan of rainbows and told me that I have to get that one.
You have to.
I have to, which does not fit into my style guide, my personal style guide.
Well, you got to do what you got to do for kids.
Yes, yes. And they do have some new cool faces. There's one by a designer. So they had, a graphic designer put some cool ones together. There's a, surfing one where it'll give you tides, along with a surfing app, a photography one that will tell you when the golden hour is and give you some different things on the watch face. So they're making some progress. People say they want custom watch faces where anybody could design one. That's that's a slippery slope right there for a lot of beautiful Apple Watches with some very non-beautiful faces on them.
Well, as time goes on, the argument for custom watch faces kind of goes away. Early on, it was a very big argument because Apple gave you very few options. And then as they added the complications and more faces, and then a larger display with more complication areas, and you could add 2 or more complications from the same application on the same watch face. They've got to a point where app developers can pretty much customize the experience through Apple's many templates that they have set up. So I would argue before it was really necessary. Every time they add new watch faces and new technologies that display different type of information, I would say the need for custom watch faces is less and less. Yes. And we're going to get to a point where there's not anything that a custom designer could do that you can't do already yourself with the built-in template. So I was excited to see some of those new things. Now, I'm still rocking a Series 3, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But, I don't get the hand washing thing when I wash my hands. Yeah. That's not on there. It doesn't have any type of special sensors. There's no EKG. I can call emergency services, and I think it might have fall detection, or at least a version of it, but it's pretty limited. Now, if you don't want to spend the $399 plus for the Apple Watch Series 6, and you're tired of the Series 3 hanging around for its, I think, third or fourth year at this point, then Apple has a new option for you. This is the Apple Watch SE, and it fits right between the Apple Watch Series 3, which they still sell, and the brand new Series 6. And the SE starts at $279. Now, the Series 3 starts at $199 for the smaller size, and it's only $80 more to basically get one of the better models of Apple Watch. This seems like a bargain to me. When the Series 5 came out and it was $400, I said, this is crazy. And I think I actually bought one and returned it. I did. I bought one, maybe it was I bought the Series 4. I know I'm just talking and talking. I bought the Series 4. The price is way too high. I sold it and bought two Series 3s for my wife and I for the same money. And I've been nothing but happy with that. However, at the time, if there had been an option to purchase a $279 watch that had basically all the same features, that's the one I probably would have gone for. And that's what the Apple Watch SE is right now. It does not have the blood oxygen sensor. It does not have the ECG, but the look and the software is the same as you would find on the Series 6. And so I think it's a good option. What was your opinion of the SE?
Yeah, I think it looks good. I think the only thing it's missing from the Series 6 is the blood oxygen. So yeah, to come in at that early or that lower price point, but I mean, really, if you're buying your first Apple Watch, the Series 3 might be okay. Now, the always-on display is something I don't think you've mentioned yet that was introduced last year on the Series 5, and I believe you would have that on both the Series or the SE and the 6.
I'm going to correct you there because I'm looking at the chart that I handily included in our notes.
Oh, yes.
The always-on display is only available on the Series 6.
Okay.
You do not get that on the SC and, of course, not the Series 3.
Yes.
And the ECG is also only available. So there's none of the, outside of the heart rate sensor, the SC and the Apple Watch Series 3 do not enjoy any additional sensors.
Yeah. And again, it comes back to what you need it for. If you are, serious about the exercise and the health stuff, and you're going to keep it for a couple of years, man, that Series 6. And I will mention real quick for, I think almost all of their products now, if you have an Apple Card, you can do 0% financing. So I think you have 12 or 18 months to pay it off or whatever. So that makes it a little more tolerable too. So all three models, if you go to apple.com/watch/compare, they have the quick look, and there it gives you some nice bigger visuals to confirm what we were just talking about. But yeah, so the fall detection on the SE and the 6, the differences, and the always on, confirming what you said and what the other chart from Apple said. Imagine that. The 3 and the SE only come in the aluminum, where the 6 has the stainless steel and titanium, which are the higher priced ones. So I didn't realize that the multiple colors are in the aluminum version on the Series 6. I was thinking for like the Project Red or the Gold or the Blue, you would have to get one of the better metals, but the aluminum model, the lower end on the price tier there, comes in silver, space gray, gold, blue, and the Product Red. Then the stainless steel comes in the silver, graphite, or gold, and the titanium comes in titanium or space black.
Yeah. I think this has to do with the anodization process. Aluminum is very, susceptible to the process. Other materials are not as easily done. And so you can anodize aluminum all day long with a million different colors. I was going to say it's easy to do, to do aluminum. I don't know how to do it, so I guess it's not easy, but the process is well known, and you can do a variety of colors. And so that process on aluminum is great. On those other materials like titanium, I don't even know how they're changing the color of that. They're all alloys, and so they may be mixing in different materials with the metal. Who knows? But that's why you find it on the color options on the cheaper material.
Well, Now, Dave, let's get to the good part. I think we've talked through what they talked about today. You, as you said, you have a Series 3 currently. Are you tempted by the SE or the 6?
Well, I am tempted by both of them, but the truth remains that I am still not a rich man. And so the $399 entry-level price tag, which would probably be $449 or $429 for me, because I'd get the bigger size. I mean, that's half of a laptop computer right there.
Yeah.
We talked a couple weeks ago about John Rittinger, who said, hey, instead of buying the brand new iPhone, maybe buy the last year's model and get an Apple Watch and get all these headphones and all these other things. So I'm inclined, if I had a pile of money right now, inclined to buy the SE at a much lower price. The only thing I would really miss would be the ECG functionality, which I've been wanting to try out, but I don't have that on my current watch. So I'm not giving up anything by doing that. All I'm doing is gaining new features and new applications and new everything. For my money today, I think I would buy the SE and just be sad that I didn't have the blood oxygen and ECG capability.
Yes. Well, I am currently using the Series 4, so the one from 2 years ago, and when we talked about the new watches last year, I said, I think I'm going to buy one of these, the always-on display, and a couple of the other things. That would be great. Well, shortly after the event today, I popped on the Apple app, on the Apple Store app on my phone, and started looking and realized they were already available for sale. So guess who ordered a Series 6 Apple Watch today?
Isla did, with the rainbow band.
No, I did that before we saw the rainbow band. So
okay.
But
congratulations.
Yes, we'll see. I just wanted to get an order. It should be here Friday. It's Tuesday, the day of the event that we were recording. But I wanted to get one in there. Now, I went for the 44 millimeter, the larger one, for $429. I was a little disappointed in the band selection. Like we talked about earlier, these new solo bands, the one size, my wrist fluctuates. So I went with the traditional, is it the Sport Loop? Yeah, so I went with the Sport Band. I was a little disappointed in the colors. Now, one thing I've realized is that I keep things very plain. My current Apple Watch, I've got the aluminum with it's kind of a off-white tan Sport Loop, knockoff Sport Loop band. But the colors are, they've got a green, a blue, and then like a pink citrus, the product red, the pink, the white, which I had on my original Apple Watch, black, and then the Pride Edition. I would like just a gray or an off-white something. The white's a little too bright for me. The colors, they might not match what I'm wearing, so I did go with the black.
Yeah.
And
over time, the white would match better, I think.
Yes, that's true. As it got dirty. And the Sport Loops, their version of Velcro, those ones, they're all like multicolored, and so I'll probably end up either using the one I have now or getting one off Amazon. But I did go with the black. I do not go for the cellular one, and I was talking to somebody over the weekend, and they were talking about, how great it is. They had a Series 2, I think. Their friend had one with cellular, and they were down on the beach, and they could just take a phone call. For me, I never want to be away from my phone because my phone has a camera on it, and I like being able to capture moments. So there is absolutely, if I was to get into yogging or something like that, I would still want my phone with me. So the cellular, the extra $100 or whatever you pay for that's not. So after I made my hurried purchase on the phone app to get in line, and I did the Apple Card financing, so I think it's like $16 a month for however long to pay it off, for 100 years to pay it off. I was looking on the computer, and just, this is why I like using a computer, it's a little easier. I saw the trade-in options. So I was looking through that, and I could have traded in my watch for, they would only give me $140, which I think I could probably get more from
on
somebody.
Craigslist or
something. So That's all right that I didn't do that. And I'm not guaranteeing that I'm going to keep it. I just wanted to order one so that if I did, I wouldn't have to wait too long as everybody starts ordering them. But so that's Apple Watch. They've got 3 models available moving forward. I cannot sing enough praises of the Apple Watch. It's just so hard to explain to people that haven't used one. We've tried to explain it before, but just having it makes me use my phone less. Everybody thinks, oh, I don't need another gadget to make me use my phone more. It makes me use my phone less, which for the most part is a good thing.
Yeah, and before we move on to the next big topic of the day, I wanted to remind my fellow cheapskates out there that if you go to the Apple website and scroll clear down to the bottom, there's a refurbished section in the center column, in the center area of the column, and you can purchase refurbished Apple Watch Series 4 and Series 5. And right now, for $329, you can get a Series 5 GPS watch, 44 millimeter silver, Nike, and there's a gold one and there's a silver one. And then if you have the smaller wrist and you want the 40 millimeter, you can get some for $309. And Series 4, going clear back there, very similar in price. Let's see. Actually, it might not be available.
So compared to I would be curious, the Series 5 versus the SE. So they do look to be a little bit more than the SE. And one of the things I don't think we talked about, they've got a new amazing processor in there, so things are faster. Yeah. And I also did see something on the Series 6. It has the, the U1 chip, the ultra-wideband chip that they're starting to put into their devices, which is going to have some more functionality with stuff that's coming soon. But
here's what you're going to get with the Series 5 over the brand new SE. You're going to get the ECG functionality, and you're going to get the always-on display. Everything else is practically the same, but it does cost more than the SE, so it may not be worth it to you. So last year's model starting at $309, and this year's SE starting at $279. Pick your poison. I actually would probably, with this newfound knowledge, be inclined to pick up last year's model to maybe get some of those extra features, but I'm going to be giving up a lot of stuff. I'm going to be giving up color options, the new processor, the ultra wideband, all those things I would be giving up. So
that's the Apple Watch hardware. And then they kind of snuck in some other announcements that are tied to Apple Watch, but have further reaching implications. The first one, this is a cool thing that I think parents could get behind. They have a new feature for Apple Watch called Family Setup. So
terrible name, by the way.
Yes, Family Setup. That is the most un-Apple name Apple's ever used, I think. But yeah, so what this is your child, or they were even referencing to older people that didn't have a phone. It allows you to have an Apple Watch without a phone, and then if it's a cellular model, I don't know if that's a requirement for this.
It is. You do have to have it. They only do this with cellular models.
So with the cellular models, the person can have their own phone number and account without actually having a phone. So this allows you to be in contact or know where your person is. They talked about kids and senior citizens, but this could really work for anybody. You can have your own account on there. You can create an emoji right on the watch. There's a school time mode. So it doesn't require an individual iPhone to be tied to that device, but somebody in the family has to have an iPhone to kind of configure and manage the account. But I could see a benefit to this, having some of the features of an iPhone on your wrist as a child, or somebody that just doesn't want to have a smartphone, but to still be able to make phone calls and get some information there.
Well, I can see someone like listener Tyler, who has some younger children who are school-aged. His oldest daughter, I could see she's not old enough probably to have her own phone. And how does a little kid carry a $300 iPhone around anyway, or 300 plus?
Yes.
I mean, I'm going with a cheap, maybe, or a used one or something, a hand-me-down. But that's bulky for a kid to manage, and they can get in all kinds of trouble and, purchase apps and do all these things that you don't want them to do. But having the ability to give them a watch, like let's say a Series 3 cellular, so you can save some money. It's cheaper than a phone. They have their own number, so they could potentially receive a phone call on their wrist You've got the Find My Device, Find My Friends functionality. So if they're supposed to be at the playground and they're not, you can see that because the Apple Watch is tracking them. And they really can't get into any trouble configuring or messing it up because it's tied to your phone. You control all the stuff. You control the hours. You control, conceivably the watch faces and various things. You can dictate exactly what is going to be displayed on that child's watch. And so I think there's a lot of arguments for parents these days who want to keep tabs on their kids without giving them an expensive cell phone. This sits right in the middle of having nothing, or one of those third-party tracking things that you give your kids, those gigantic watches that look like Playmobil designed them, or like an ankle bracelet lock thing that you give a prisoner. This sits right in the middle of that. It seems affordable. You of course would have to pay your cellular monthly plan in addition to having the watch to make the watch functional. But I mean, it's like $10 a month for peace of mind. I think this is really great. Now, pre-COVID, this was a much better idea. Yes. Now, kids aren't like in school buildings very much, and they're not out and about through the community because everybody's staying home. But in the near future, hopefully, kids will be out and about again, and this family setup can have a lot of benefits, I think, to households who aren't quite ready to give their kids full-blown cell phones.
Yes. And then the other new service that they announced is the Fitness Plus. So this is it works with the Apple Watch. I think even if you don't have an Apple Watch, you can probably use it because it works on Apple TV and your devices. So they have all these different world-class workouts by the world's top trainers, new workouts every week, work out how and wherever you want. And so it'll keep track of obviously everything on your watch, but then you can watch these videos. So, this is competition for our beloved Mirror.co or Peloton, which I saw their stock price took a big dip and then was coming back up today. But they announced that it'll be $9.99 a month or $80 a year. If you buy a new watch, you get 3 months free. But I think there's some great implications to this, just having it, again, as Apple does so well, tied in with the watch and your devices and doing everything together.
This is why devices like Peloton are always going to be expensive or go away eventually, and the company's going to lose money. Because would you rather have a very large house with a studio room that you can set up as a gym to house this giant Peloton Mirrored Co TV thing with your mat and all your weights and all this stuff? Would you rather have that? Well, is that more reasonable? Or having an Apple TV connected to your current TV and you just either use the Apple TV application or you stream it from your phone? Or even better, let's say you have a small apartment and you don't even have a TV. You can set your iPad or your phone up on one end of the room. You can stand in the middle of the room and do your exercises. Your watch is fully integrated, keeping track of all the cardio, all the blood oxygen if you have the newer watches, your movements, your steps, your everything. And it's one cohesive workout system that can fit in your pocket and on your wrist versus a giant monolith of a device that takes up half a room. So I see this really taking off. I'm a little skeptical with we're going to do new workouts every month or every week. We're going to keep this thing going. Every time Apple tries to do these things, like, we're going to do iAds and we're going to do ping on our iTunes and we're going to do this thing, or we're going to do the music, the Apple Music. It seems like they've continued to have like their live radio stations and stuff go on. So that's maybe an exception, but it always feels like they put energy into creating these things and they never maintain them. So it's going to be interesting to see how well they maintain this. And I think it's going to be determined by how many people sign on board and pay their monthly fee. If it's really popular, it'll be maintained. If not, this might go away. So that would be one word of caution, I think, out there.
Yes. And I think great transition into the next segment where they announced a new bundle, a long-rumored bundle of many of their services. Apple has a lot of services now, and they have 3 new plans
Mhm.
called Apple One, and fitness is part of the Premier level. They have individual, family, or Premier. The individual comes with Apple Music, Apple TV Plus, Apple Arcade, and 50 gigs of iCloud for $15 a month. And then the family for just $5 more at $19.95. It comes with the same things, only 200 gigs of storage. And then the Premier at $30 a month gives you Music, TV Plus, Arcade, the full 2 terabytes of iCloud, Apple News Plus, and the Apple Fitness Plus. So at $30 a month, you and your whole family could have this. One quick note, I did just see on the Apple website, you do need a Apple Watch Series 3 or later to use the Fitness Plus. I thought maybe you didn't need an Apple Watch, but that is a requirement to use the service. And it's coming late 2020. So the Apple One, I mean, currently I'm on the free version of Apple TV Plus. I'm not using Apple Music. I'm not using Apple Arcade. I do pay for 2 terabytes of iCloud for the family. I don't use Apple News Plus, and I'm curious about the Fitness Plus. So I can see the advantage of this, but I'm not sure if it's for me. Dave, what are your thoughts on the Apple One and your family?
Well, like you, I pay $10 a month for the 2 terabytes of storage for my family to share. Full disclosure, I use 90% of it.
Yes.
The family uses the other 10% of it, if that. And we have room to spare. At least now we do. That may change in the future. But going from $10 a month to the Premier, $30 a month, that extra $20, I'm getting Apple Music, which is typically $10 a month. Apple TV Plus, which, what is that, like $6 or something a month?
So.
Arcade, which is $5, News Plus, and then this Fitness Plus. The value seems great. It's a $25 savings if you bought all these things individually. However, we use Spotify for our music, and the thought of changing from Spotify over to Apple Music still just drives me crazy sometimes. I'm thinking, why are you doing things this way? So every time I try it, I'm always disappointed, and I always come back. So that would be an unused piece. Apple TV Plus, I'm also getting the free one because we bought a device last year. Yeah. That's going to go away soon. Would I pay for it separately by itself? I don't know. Apple Arcade, I like the service. I like those games, but I have so many games to play. I don't need to subscribe to this. And if I had the extra money to subscribe to a gaming service, I would subscribe to Xbox's 100 game bundle that they do. That's where my money would go. I'm already getting the cloud. Anyway, I don't think I have to continue to go on to say that I probably will not get the Premier service. And if I got the family plan for just $10 more, I would be cutting my storage by 10 times, my iCloud storage, to do that. So I think I would rather just spend the $10 a month for the 2 terabytes and either buy those other services a la carte or not use them at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I have to agree at this point. I'm just not sure if I will need that, because the iCloud's basically, unless the Fitness really blows away and they really step up the TV Plus, though it's tempting because it's like, it's just easy, it's a bundle, and I can share it with the family.
If the Premier were $20 a month, I'd probably go for it.
Yeah.
I could say, you know what? I'm going to double what I'm paying to Apple right now, and I'm going to get all of these services. I'm basically going to pay for Apple Music and get everything else for free, is how I would see it.
Yeah.
Maybe even 25, but 30 just seems way too much to me.
Yeah, it depends how much you're going to use it. Well, enough of all that stuff. Let's talk about what they updated on the iPads today. So earlier in the year, they updated Did they update the iPad mini this year?
It's been a while since they did the mini, but the big headliner a few months ago was the iPad Pro.
Yes.
Which I guess was a headliner. All they really did was add a LiDAR sensor to the camera array on the back. There may have been a subtle increase in processor. but nothing major. They may have increased the minimum storage size. I don't think they did, but there were just very small differences. I had a friend who was purchasing an iPad. I think he bought a used iPad Pro, knowing that this new one was going to be coming out. And after it came out, it was like, well, should I get rid of the old one and get the new one? And I'm like, do you need a LiDAR sensor? Because that's basically all you're getting. And unless you're a developer, I don't know what you would use a LiDAR sensor for. Maybe somebody in some industry that needs a LiDAR sensor. So I was like, no, save your money, keep the old one. And today, with the announcement of this new product that we're about to talk about, the iPad Air, it's got the same iconic design of the new iPad Pro. It's got a very nice liquid retina display, however, not as large. It's got an even newer chip, the A14 Bionic chip. It's compatible with the same Magic Keyboard, the same Smart Keyboard Folio. It's compatible with the same Apple Pencil Generation 2 as the iPad Pro that came out a few months ago. So other than a slightly larger screen display, a slightly better screen, I think it's got the 120 hertz refresh rate, the Pro model does. Outside of that, there's not much difference in these two devices.
Yeah.
And the difference in price, though, that's the big difference. $599 for the new iPad Air, $799 for the iPad Pro. So is the LiDAR sensor and the extra 0.12 inches worth $200? Not for my money.
Yes. And one of the interesting things on this iPad Air is that it has Touch ID built into the, what do they call it, the sleep-wake button?
In the presentation day, they called it the top button.
The top button, yes. The only button on these devices. But yeah, so they have built an all-new Touch ID sensor, so it doesn't have Face ID like the iPad Pro does. And I thought this was very interesting and saw a lot of speculation on Twitter. Wouldn't it be great if they could put that in addition to Face ID on the new iPhones coming next month? I think that would be a great feature. But yeah, this iPad Air really looks like a great product, and you'd have to have a really good reason, unless you were looking for the larger 12.9-inch iPad Pro to the 11-inch iPad Pro. I don't know why you'd go for that with this new iPad Air. It looks like a great device. I believe they're saying it's going to be available in October. Now, they did also upgrade the iPad Nothing, as it's called, the just regular iPad, the one that we also really recommend to people, that starts at $329. You can usually get them a little cheaper than that. They've done a lot of updates on that. It's got a better chip, and it's still compatible with the first generation Apple Pencil, but for a starter iPad, I mean, if it's just a casual kind of thing, that is, I mean, you cannot beat that price at $329. I did look up the iPad Mini. It was last updated March of 2019, so a year and a half ago. So yeah, that one is getting a little long in the tooth. But man, the iPad Air looks really cool. I'm still on I think the original iPad Pro, which works fine for what I need it for. And but this iPad Air is really tempting.
I think you might have the second generation iPad Pro, but it is of the old style.
The old
style. It does
style,
not have the flat sides. It's got the iconic rounded back that pretty much all the other ones do. And the difference between your Pro and my third generation Air is very nominal. I'd mentioned this earlier. I really miss the stereo speakers. My iPad Air just has one mono speaker. And when you're watching content without headphones, having the stereo, or even playing games, having the stereo field is really great. And so good news, the new iPad Air that they announced has stereo speakers. I believe it only works in horizontal or landscape mode because it's a left and right. The fancy iPad Pro have a quadraphonic speaker array. So if you're in portrait mode, if you're in landscape mode, if it's upside down, whatever, you're going to get a stereo sound field. So there are just some very subtle differences between the recently updated iPad Pro and the brand new iPad Air. And again, for my money, I'm going with the iPad Air. And who knows, I might even look on the refurbished store and see, are there any non-LiDAR sensor iPads out there that I can buy refurbished for cheap and do what John Redinger suggested again. Why not buy refurbished, or why not buy last year's model? And then I can have more devices for the same money.
Yes. And the iPad Air does come in 5 finishes now: space gray, silver, rose gold, green, and sky blue. So they're adding some really nice subtle colors to those. But yeah, I really like the iPad Air. Again, they're not going to be released until October. So I'm not, I have some time to think about what I might do if I decide to update my iPad, which I probably don't need to do, but sometimes that's has not stopped me before.
Right. And I love the iPad mini, but my guess is it'll be another year before they update that, and it's going to look the same. It's just going to have a newer processor. I think there's not a lot of love for the mini at Apple, even though they sell a ton of them. It's probably just a fraction of what they sell of the other sizes. Yes.
Well, that kind of wraps up what they announced today. As Tim Cook was doing his closing and saying goodbye, he did make a surprise announcement to many, I believe, that tomorrow, September 16th, that they will be releasing iOS 14, iPadOS 14, watchOS 7, and tvOS 14, which is great news for all of us. It means that it is ready to go. I thought that they would maybe wait closer until the new phones came out, but I think with these new devices, with the new watches coming this week, they want to get that out so everything was on the latest OS. The people that are not very happy about that is developers. They are usually given a week's notice before the the release happens, and they are given 24 hours notice. So apparently in some of the tweets I was reading, they have to download the latest version, make sure their app works with it, get it submitted to the Apple Store or to the App Store so that it'll be ready to go for tomorrow. So if you update to the latest versions tomorrow and your favorite app isn't quite working just right or doesn't have some of the new features, it is because they are all scrambling and have a 24-hour window to get that done.
And I'm on the developer beta, and I did an update right before the presentation today, and it updated my software, but I can see in my update section of my iPad right now, I have iPad OS 14 available for me to download right now. So perhaps those on the developer beta can get the official release early. I'm not sure.
Yeah, it looks that way on my phone as well, since we were running the developer beta. But yeah,
it usually says beta on there, but this one seems like it's the official release. So I'll have to check my phone later. Honestly, I don't even know where my phone is. That's a rarity. It's somewhere in this
emergency. Cancel the podcast.
I have my Apple Watch, so I don't really need to carry my phone around all the time. So they're an advantage.
There you go. Well, I think we will wrap up this episode. If you guys have any questions on something you're thinking about buying or anything that we talked about here, let us know. Next week, we will get back to our regularly scheduled programming, unless Apple decides to do another event next week. Who knows? It's all up in the air, all up in the iPad Air.
Yes, and I'll encourage all of you to visit Apple's website. If you just want a quick overview, they have all of the tentpole announcements right there on their homepage. You can scroll down and click on any of them that interest you. You don't have to do a lot of hunting and pecking. Just go to apple.com. Everything is right there, and you can even watch the presentation yourself by clicking a link, and you can watch the whole thing. And of course, YouTube is full of the iPad Apple Watch announcement in 12 minutes or whatever, if you want to do one of those videos.
Yes. So now that you've listened to us talk about our viewpoints, you can go do your own research and let us know what you find. I'm sure we'll get more information as the week goes on. So until next time, get out there and tech better.
I will. Thank you.
No problem.